Hello, I'm Jasmine Richards. I'm an author, an editor, a screenwriter, and founder of Story Mix, the inclusive fiction studio. And this is the Children's Media Conference, Get In and Get On to Writing publishing session. So welcome. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about writing, and my colleague Helen will be joining us a bit later to talk a bit more about the publishing industry and the children's publishing industry more widely. So you're at this conference, I'm assuming, because you're interested in working in children's media, being a creator, be it an author or an industry professional, an editor, or maybe a marketeer when it comes to children's media. Now, the thing that you need to know is if you're interested in working in children's media, you're going to have to wear all of the hats. I have a couple of rather fetching hats right here, but you're going to have to wear all of the hats, and you're going to have to stitch lots of different attributes and abilities together. And that's what makes children's publishing and creating for children so very exciting. I thought I'd talk you through some of the various hats I've worn over the years. And so that I'm going to start with editorial. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about what an editor does. I'm just going to touch on that very lightly because Helen will talk about it a bit further later. And also, how do you start? How might you get your foot in the door in terms of becoming an editor at a big children's publishing house, or indeed a little children's publishing house? There's lots of different parts of this ecosystem. So what does an editor do? It is an editor's job, when all is said and done, to be the champion of a book in house, a champion of the book and a champion of the author. So that means that an editor is a strategist, they might be a copywriter, they're an advocate, they know about the market and they know how to publish into a market. They also have a deep understanding on how to plot story, right? Because they're helping the author to plot their story. So they might be familiar with structures like the hero's journey or the 3-act structure, or it might just be what they've learned over many years reading lots and lots of books. And so that's what I would say to you. If you're interested in editing, then you've got to start with the book and you've got to start with reading. And before you go and pay for any expensive courses, know that if you're a reader and when you're reading, your brain is already ticking over thinking about, well, this doesn't work, and I don't believe the character would do that in a situation, then you are editing and you're practicing your craft already. Now, in terms of getting into the industry, especially if you want to be an editor, it is a really competitive market. So I would say be quite strategic in thinking how you get your first foot in the door, and think about that pipeline of how books are made. I would look at something like a literary agency. So it's a literary agent's job to be the sieve for the industry, to find those gems among all of those stories that are being told and pitch it to publishers. So they get a lot of manuscripts, and many literary agents are a one-band operation. So if you were to go to them and offer your help, and offer to help to read some of their manuscripts, then I think a lot of literary agents would bite off your hand. But it's important that you can demonstrate to them how to read critically and how to give feedback on manuscripts. So I would have a go at almost doing a spec reading on a book and show what your report looks like. After being an editor, or rather whilst I was an editor, I started writing. So I became an author, and it was actually editing other people's books that gave me the confidence to become a writer, because I realized regardless of who you are, you could be a multi-million-pound selling author. No one writes the perfect manuscript the first time round. It's all about iterations, it's all about refining. And it was whilst working with other authors that I realized that actually I had stories I wanted to tell myself, and that it's okay to make a start and that it won't be perfect, because no one is perfect the first time. In terms of a career as an author, I think an important thing to say is long gone are the days where you can sit in your garret somewhere and write beautiful prose. That still needs to happen, but there's so many other parts to being an author. And I would actually say you should manage yourself and think about yourself as a brand. So think about how you want to present yourself to the world. So what you do say on social media is important. There is a performative element, especially if you want to write for children. You're in a unique position where you'll get to visit schools and book festivals and entertain children and instill this love of reading. And it's what makes me still want to write children's books rather than writing adult books, because frankly, who wants to talk to grown-ups? I'm only joking, you're grown up, so I'm really excited to be here. But writing for children is a really special gift, okay? The stories you get to tell, but also the fact that you're inspiring the next generation of potentially authors and readers. One other tip that I would give to you is that you've got to be tenacious and resilient to be an author. Like, rejection will be part of your journey. That's just the reality of the creative industry. But if all the way along you're open to learning and evolving, then you can have a path in this industry. Okay, so I was writing books. I was very happy in that box. I knew exactly what I was doing. And I was approached to write on a TV series. And so in terms of how I broke into screenwriting, I kind of fell into it, or rather a door opened, an opportunity knocked. So I'm going to say something really cheesy here, but your network is your net worth. It's a phrase that is used in business terms. And what it means is the people that you know are important. That can feel daunting right now because you're right at the beginning of your career, but there are ways even from now to start building your network. And it was someone in my network, is actually someone that I used to edit, was a showrunner on a series called PJ Masks. And he asked me if I would like to have a go at writing a screenplay. And I said, I can't do it. I've only ever written books or edited books. Who on earth am I to be writing on a screenplay? And he said, read some scripts, buy final draft. I will be your mentor, have a go. And so that's what I would always say to you, is have a go. And you might not have like a fairy godmother that floats into your life and says, hey, come and write on this massive show. I understand that doesn't happen for everyone, but that whole idea of mentorship and trying and failing and trying again is really important. So my first draft of a screenplay for TV animation was not perfect, but you just keep on going. I'm now onto my final hat, and that is as a founder of my company, StoryMix, which I founded 4 years ago now. And our work is all about centering kids of colour in stories full of joy and adventure. And what's really exciting about this role, and to run with this metaphor about hats, is that I get to wear all of my hats on top of the other. Okay, so I get to use my skills as a screenwriter, I get to use my skill as an author and an editor, and all of those other things that I've acquired along the way. So being a strategist, being a teacher, being a learner, all of these things have made it possible that I can create books and other children's media for kids that have never got to see themselves before and can change the industry. And it was because it was a journey. And I've learned things along the way, and I feel so blessed that I get to do that. And that's what I get to call a job. I get to make stories all day long and change the world. So welcome to the industry. I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited that you want to learn more. And I'm now going to pass you over to the wonderful Helen, who's going to break down the publishing industry a little bit more. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Jasmine. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. I'm Helen McAleer. I have worked in publishing for many, many years. I'm currently a consultant, and I work across children's publishing, television, licensing, you name it. But I have worked in publishing houses for a lot of my career, including Random House and Penguin and BBC. And my last big job in publishing was I was the managing director of Walker Books for 10 years, and Walker Books is an independent UK-based children's publisher of some success. So I have several hats like Jasmine, and I have a very sort of wide and varied experience. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about how to get published, either as a writer or an illustrator. I say illustrator because in children's books, that can be quite an important part. As Jasmine has said, it is a very competitive industry, so you have to have tenacity. But there are ways to get published. A literary agent is one, getting to know them, being connected. I mean, we are very lucky nowadays. We live in such a connected society, and it really works well for writers. You can have your forums online. You can meet people there. You can attend conferences. There is the London Book Fair, which is obviously based in London. There's a Bologna Book Fair you can go to. The Booksellers Association has a conference every year. The Publishers Association has a conference. You can connect with all these groups. Your local bookshop, get connected there, see what's going on there. There are so many ways. There are courses that you can go on at colleges, that universities. I mean, you can really get yourself into the industry and do that as much as possible, because once you're published, then you become a licensee, and it's a contractual relationship with your publisher, and having a literary agent to help you find your way through that complex arrangement is important, but not necessary. There are many authors out there that represent themselves, and that's fine too. So once that's done, there are trends, definitely trends in children's publishing. Often children's publishing leads the way. You will often see things that have started off in children's books that will then end up on television and film franchises. So it's important to understand trends, know what's going on, read a lot, as Jasmine said, keep reading children's books, go to the bookshops, look online, see what's happening, see what's successful, see what's worked. Get yourself as knowledgeable as you can, read trade publications if you can. There's the Bookseller, you can get that online. There's Publishing News, there's all sorts of trade publications that you can learn about what's going on in the industry. And for my next slide, I thought I'd talk a little bit about publishing houses themselves. I mean, there are many, many different types of publishing houses in the UK. I'll focus on the UK because obviously that's where we're based. But as you know, publishing is a global industry. There are 4 major publishing houses. Random Penguin, which has over 2,000 employees alone in the UK. There's Hachette. There is HarperCollins, and there's Pan Macmillan. These are huge houses with multiple different imprints, from the children's imprints to non-fiction, to fiction, to educational, you name it. They cover every aspect of publishing. And there are many, many smaller ones. There are medium-sized publishing houses. So it's a huge industry. In 2022, the publishing industry alone in the UK was worth nearly £7 billion. So it's a massive industry. And there are many jobs you can do. You don't have to just be a writer or an editor. You can be on the art side. You can be on the marketing side. You can be a digital person, digital expertise. You can become a senior manager. You can be an expert in production. You can be an expert in book design and cover design. There are so many different jobs that you can do. So don't feel that you have to go down one particular route. Have a look and see what is out there. And then finally, just to talk about the other jobs in publishing, you don't just have to work for a publishing house. You could work for a literary agent, and Jasmine explained very clearly how you can do that. You could be a bookseller. You could be a part of a literary estate and help manage somebody's literary estate. You could teach, you could go into academia. You could be a part of a printer. I mean, all books have to be printed. You could help distribute books. There are massive distribution houses all through the country with thousands of staff. You could work for a book charity. You could work for a book festival. There are many, many ways to be part of the publishing, the children's publishing industry. So I wish you all the best. Thank you for coming and listening to this children's media conference session. I wish you all the best in the future. Go out there, have fun, enjoy it. It's a great industry. And thank you for listening.